Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
This is the Tudors Dynasty and Beyond podcast. History with a twist. And now your host, Rebecca Larson.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Rebecca Larson, and this is not Matt Lewis. This is Sharon Bennett Connolly. Welcome, Sharon. I know you're not Matt, but I still want to welcome you to the show.
So sorry. Right, so, yeah, no, I'm definitely not Matt. I'm probably older, most definitely older, actually. But I have got more hair.
And you're better looking. We'll say that too.
Oh, thank you. No, Matt.
I had to tease Sharon because obviously this is the episode where it's usually Matt, but Sharon's here again today to fill in for Matt. So she is my steady. Matt is flaky.
I'm just a substitute.
Oh, here we go again.
Well, at least apparently I can have you laughing as much as Matt can.
Yes, for sure. I had to have Sharon back again because, of course, she has her book, Princesses of the Early Middle Ages. Whew, I got that out every time. I don't know why I struggle with that one. Is out, and we want to talk about some more content in this book. And the last time you were on, we talked about the illegitimate daughters of Henry the First.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to think about that for a second. I do so many episodes that sometimes I forget the ones that I've done. But today we are talking about the daughters of King Stephen, who, after Matt did the episode on Stephen and Matilda, I had a whole new view of Stephen, and I actually didn't think he was so terrible, but I know you don't feel the same.
Either was. I actually prefer his wife, Matilda of Boulogne. But then again, I mean, apparently, according to all the chronicles, well, the Gesta Stephani, which might be a little bit biased, seeing as it's called the Deeds of Stephen. Stephen was the most chivalrous man in medieval England. You know, he was absolutely wonderful. But shortened, he was a wuss.
Well, we don't have to talk about him very much in today's episode. I do want to know more about his wife, because what I've learned so far is she seems like a very intelligent woman who knew how to get things done. What can you tell us about Matilda?
Well, she married Stephen when she was about 20, and which probably means that she had some proposals that either fell by the wayside or the proposed groom died before that, because as a woman in medieval England who was the only child of the Count of Boulogne, she was a pretty valuable marriage prize, and the fact that she didn't marry until she was 20 is really unusual. But as a result of that, she actually seems to have been educated and trained to rule Boulogne herself.
Oh.
Which means that when she and Stephen did marry in 1125, it was definitely a partnership. You know, she ran the day-to-day administration of the county of Boulogne rather than Stephen. And all the charters relating to Boulogne are signed by Stephen and Matilda of Boulogne.
Oh, so explain to me how Stephen got connected to such an amazing woman. How did this happen?
I actually think, and when I wrote my original about Stephen and Matilda in Women of the Anarchy, I think I wrote something like, it's possible that Stephen was being groomed by Henry I to succeed him. I think it's highly likely. Now I've done more reading on it. I think it's highly likely that when after the death of William Atheling, and before Empress Matilda's husband died in 1125. And seeing as Henry I and Adeliza of Louvain were having no luck in trying to have another child, that Henry thought the best option was to groom his nephew, Stephen, who was the third son of his favourite sister, Adela, to become his heir. So he gave him lands, he gave him the county of Mortain, the most of northwest England, the honour of Lancaster, and the honour of Eye. So he gave him lands, and then he gave him the most valuable marriage prize that was on the market at the time, Matilda of Boulogne. So, it's like you look at it and it's like, oh, he was definitely thinking Stephen can succeed me. And then, of course, Empress Matilda's husband dies. Empress Matilda hasn't got any kids. So it's suddenly like, oh, actually, my own daughter can succeed me if I recall her from Germany. So move over Stephen. Poor
Dangerous.
Stephen.
Yeah.
He's already starting to believe he's going to become king. And Henry's like, move over Stephen. Nope. My own daughter's here. She can become queen or empress or ruler, whatever the title they would decide on. And of course, Stephen's like, he's had a taste of the idea of being the heir. And I suppose he was always aware that Henry and Adeliza could have a child, but that child would still, with Henry getting on a bit, that child would still probably be under 10 years old by the time Henry pops his clogs. So
there's that British saying again, pops his clogs.
So Stephen may still be considered as the one who would be who would take the crown.
Yeah.
So with Matilda, a grown woman back in England, it's like, oh, all his dreams, hopes and dreams fading fast.
Yeah, it complicated things for everyone except for the king when Matilda came back.
Yep.
Okay, so Stephen and Matilda get married. So this is obviously, as you've said before, Henry I dies. They're married. They're living in Boulogne.
Yes, most of the time, although they do have substantial lands in England as well. So in Kent, in Lancaster. I mean, Stephen spends some of his time with Henry in the north of England after he's married to Matilda of Boulogne. So, they had a cross-channel barony, basically.
Okay. And they had children. And before we go into those children, were the children born prior to King Henry's death?
Some were, some weren't.
Okay. All right.
So, there's the awkward bit. I mean, as with all children in the 11th century, exact dates are hard to come by, especially with Stephen's children, because most of them weren't born as the children of a king. So we have what was recorded isn't totally clear. We think Eustace, who was the oldest, was born about 1129. Baldwin, another boy, was born before 1135. That's assumed because they both have names aligning with the county of Boulogne, with previous counts of Boulogne.
Oh.
So they were probably born before Stephen became king. They were aimed at inheriting the county of Boulogne rather than the kingdom of England. The third son, William, carries the name of two English kings, the first and the second. So he's most likely born after Stephen became king. And there's a congratulations missive sent by the Pope to Matilda of Boulogne in, I think it was 1137, 1138, which suggests that William had just been born at that point. It's a congratulations on the birth of your son. So that suggests that he was born after Stephen became king. With the two girls, it's even more difficult because one is called Matilda, which is what her mum's called. Her paternal grandmother was called.
That was
So-
the most popular name of this time.
And every single relative of Henry I was called Matilda. So she was called Matilda. We don't know whether or not it was because Matilda was just the name of the time.
Yeah.
And the younger daughter is called Mary, which is what Matilda of Boulogne's mother was called. She was Mary of Scotland. So they don't really indicate whether or not the girls were born before or after the conquest. But with the daughter Matilda, we do know that she was 2 in 1136 when she was offered as a bride for Waleran de Beaumont, the future Earl of Worcester. So we know she was born before Stephen became king, and Mary was probably born afterwards.
Okay. Well, either way, they're still daughters of a king, which is a big deal. They may not have known whether or not they were actually going to be the daughters of a king, I would say, but they just so happened to end up that way, and so their life took a interesting turn because of this. So let's start with the oldest, and the oldest is Matilda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about her life a little bit. What did that end up looking like? Because I feel like her sister's life is a little bit reminiscent of some of the earlier episodes that we've done with Gunhild and Gytha, I think it was.
Yes. Yes, very similar because, like you say, Mary was the daughter of a king who stopped being a king.
Yeah.
Whereas little Matilda was probably not the daughter of a king when she was born, but as her dad became king when she was about a year old. So it was always going to be, she was always going to get a magnificent marriage. Probably not as early as her mother and father did do it, but Stephen needed to make friends after he came to the throne. And there are these they're twin brothers, Waleran and Robert de Beaumont. And Waleran's the oldest. And they are like many medieval barons in that they will go where opportunity suits them best. So you have to, Stephen obviously realised this, so he tried to tie them to his cause by marrying the Waleran, who was about a couple of minutes older than his brother, to his eldest daughter, Matilda. Now, Waleran was about 20 at the time, and Matilda was just over 20. He was about 21, something like that. And Matilda was, like I said, she was 2. And we know this because it was actually one of the chroniclers recorded, King Stephen betrothed his infant daughter, then 2 years old, to Waleran, Count of Milan. So definitely know she was 2 in 1136. So she was born either late 1133 or early 1134.
Geez, so it was going to be quite a bit of time before they could consummate this marriage.
Yes, it was definitely one of those marriage in name only. And I mean, when I was writing about this, I was thinking about this poor little girl, 2-year-old, still toddling around, still unsure on her feet, and either being carried in her father's arms to the altar or walking, just toddling along, walking down this long aisle, holding the hand of her nurse. With this grown 21-year-old man at the end of it, waiting to marry her. And it's like, yeah, when she's 20 and he's 40, it won't look as big a difference. But it's still a big difference, and it's like this little 2-year-old who doesn't actually know what's going on, but she's been dressed in her finest outfit and told to behave and probably promised some sweets or something when the ceremony's over. And, probably treated like, we're just going to play dress up.
Everything's going to be fine. We'll bring some
Yeah,
dolls. Don't worry about it.
exactly. And this is her wedding day. So when the ceremony's over, they'll have had a big feast with Stephen and Matilda at the dais, with Walleran next to them on the high table, and little Matilda sent back to the nursery to have her tea. It's just this idea that there's just such a big disparity, and this little girl who should have been allowed to be a baby still,
Yeah,
and playing
exactly.
with her dolls, and instead she's been married to the Count of Milan, and from that moment on she would have been addressed as Countess of Milan rather than Lady Matilda and things like that,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like this poor little girl and already got her life mapped out for her at 2 years old.
Yeah. So after the marriage, where did she live? I know in some cases they stay with their parents, in some cases they go with their husband to their husband's court, or where does
Um,
she go?
there's no mention of it, but from what happened to her, I would assume that she stayed in the nursery with her parents and with her siblings. There's no mention of her being handed over to the Count of Milan. And
Okay.
I don't know why they would do that, to be honest, because, Stephen, it would just be, Walleran wouldn't know how to look after children, he might have handed her off to his mum, maybe.
Yeah.
But,
Awkward.
yeah.
Here,
So, no,
mom, take care of your daughter-in-law.
I think she probably stayed in the royal nursery, uh, although not for much longer, to be honest, because she died shortly afterwards anyway. She was dead before the end of 1137. So a year and a half later,
Oh.
she died. Baldwin, her brother, appears to have died about the same time.
Oh.
So I don't know if there was some kind of illness that went through the nursery, like whooping cough or measles, something like that,
Yeah.
that hit all of them. And Baldwin and Matilda were the ones who didn't survive, maybe.
That's the thing that always just tugs at my heartstrings with this
Yeah,
time period of is all the infant death and how different it was. We have medicine now, right? And
yeah,
and we have shots and things that you can get to stop yourself from getting things like measles.
exactly.
They just didn't
I
have
think,
it.
yeah, I think everybody in who should be taught the history of infant mortality when they're at school, so that they know the reasons that we do have these vaccinations. That, like they talk now about measles coming back. It's like we'd almost eradicated it, and
Yeah.
measles can kill children. Why would you not get them? I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. But yeah, the reason we have vaccinations is children were prone to dying young from illnesses that nowadays are totally preventable.
Yeah, if you study history at all, that's one of the things you learn very early on. Especially we look at the Tudors, right? And there's always stuff coming out about, the sweating sickness and children
Mm,
dying young of the sweating sickness and things like that. I can't imagine being a mother in the Middle Ages
mm,
and the fear you must
yeah,
have of losing your children. And there's nothing you
yeah,
can do.
no. And knowing, having seen one child fall ill, you know that the others are all going to catch it,
Yeah.
and that it's just a lottery as to whether or not they all survive. Some die or they all die.
Yeah.
And it's a very recent phenomenon that we don't have that anymore. I mean, if you look, I'm sure you have it the same in the States. If we go into a graveyard here and look even at the gravestones from the 19th century, the 1830s, 40s, 50s, there's whole families, 5 children, 7 children,
Mm.
all on the same gravestone. There's one in Bawtry just up the road, and I think it's 5 children and the father all died within 2 weeks.
Oh, that's sad.
That poor mother going through day after day, losing various members, various children, and then the husband as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Okay, let's move on to something a little happier.
So let's just finish that bit first, though. So Baldwin and Matilda were buried not in the same grave, but they were buried either side of the aisle at Holy Trinity Church, Aldgate.
Okay.
So, which is why it's like they look like they died about the same time or at similar times, because the charters giving funds to Aldgate in both their names at the same time rather than one and then the other.
Oh.
So that's why it looks like they died about the same time, and they're buried in the same place. So they probably died in the same place as well, in the same castle that they were staying at the time.
Yeah, of the same sickness, probably. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. Do we know, did her grave say anything about her being a countess?
It does, actually, yes. I've got it written down here somewhere. Yeah, it's added because it actually says the charters say, for the repose of the souls of Baldwin my son and Matilda my daughter, who are buried in that church. And then later on it actually refers to Matilda. In the church it actually refers to Matilda as the Countess of Milan. So yeah, it's like
Yeah, I can't. And for anyone who doesn't know the history and goes and sees these graves, these tombs, I should say, or I guess I don't know what you want to call them, but I wonder if they put two and two together, these two were actually married. Or if they wonder if it's like father and daughter and they're trying to figure out what's going on exactly.
Yeah, I think, where is it? Oh, William of Newburgh, one of the chroniclers, he wrote them as they were buried together as the children of King Stephen, and Matilda as the wife of the Count of Milan. So yeah, it's clear that they are just children buried together, buried at the same time, and siblings and Stephen's children. And it's just, it's just sad.
It really is. It is. Okay, let's stop talking about the sad stuff. Geez, Sharon, you come on here and you make me all depressed.
And I started by making you laugh. Honestly.
I know. This is like a roller coaster of emotions happening here today.
But then you did say I was Matt Lewis's substitute, and Matt Lewis is such a serious historian, you see. So
yeah, we know that, don't we? Okay, so we mentioned at the beginning that they had two daughters. And I hinted at some similarities between an earlier episode with a convent that we talked about. I'll put a link in the show notes to that episode as well. Did I get the names right? Gunhild and Gytha?
Yes.
Okay.
You did.
Right.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mary, we think she was born after 1135, but before 1140, and she was given to the church as a child. So when she was 7 or 8, probably, she was sent to a convent in France. For a long time, it was thought that she was actually sent to a convent in England, but research by Sharon Newman and a few others have found that she was actually sent to, I think it was Saint-Sulpice in Normandy.
Oh.
And then later moved back to England to a subsidiary convent of St Leonard's at Stratford-atte-Bow. But she had an argument with the other nuns at Stratford-atte-Bow. Probably, I'm thinking she was probably a teenager at the time when she's having this argument with the other nuns. Her mum and dad are still alive, so they pull her out of that convent and actually build her one at Lille Church, and just found a new convent for her, and I assume nuns that she chose personally to accompany her, making sure, there was all her friends.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do when your family has money, huh?
Isn't it?
Here, daughter, I'm going to build you a convent. Bring all of your nun friends and have a good time.
Yeah, I just have this image like it's just an all-girls school.
Yeah, it probably is what it was actually like, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they'd have probably, assigned a couple of more mature nuns to make sure that they were all well behaved. But basically, go and have a party. No boys allowed. So just a one long pajama party.
Yeah, wow. You are really painting a picture here.
That could be totally wrong, but that's just the impression I get.
I'm picturing pillow fights now, but I'm pretty sure that.
You always want the best for your family, and that means only Eggland's Best Eggs in your kitchen. Compared to ordinary eggs, Eggland's Best Eggs contain 6 times more vitamin D, 25% less saturated fat, more than double the omega-3s, 10 times more vitamin E, and more than double the vitamin B12. So why give your family less when they can have the best? Add Eggland's Best Superior Nutrition to your next grocery list. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Well, at least they were rich, so they would have had pillows.
Yeah. Okay, so she's in England now. She's got her own convent. What happens next?
Well, she does. She ends up as abbess of Romney Abbey by 1130. Romsey Abbey, sorry, by about 1155. And I'm sure she probably would have really enjoyed just being her own woman in a convent and, being not bound by the strictures of a husband and things like that. She's got her own life. She seems to have been really settled into it. And by this point, 1155, there's only her and her youngest brother, who's probably a year or so older than her, still living, and that's William of Blois. Sorry, I speak French, but whenever I pronounce Blois, I sound like I'm throwing up.
I do too. Blois. Blois.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Blur. I should just call him William of Blur. So William of Blois, who in 1147 was married to Isabel de Warren, the 4th Countess of Warren and Surrey in her own right, a very rich young lady who was about the same age as William, and I mean very rich. Her great-grandfather, the 1st Earl Warren, William, also who was called William, is still in the top 20 richest men in history. So that's how rich Isabel was.
I was going to say, we did an episode about this too, so that's another link. We've talked about a lot of these people already with you.
Yes, we did do an episode on the Warrens. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
So William was married to Isabel, and he probably should have succeeded Stephen. And this is where I think Stephen was a wuss, because I think if Matilda of Boulogne had still been alive in 1153, after the death of their eldest son Eustace, there is no way she would have let Stephen disinherit William in order for Henry of Anjou, the Empress's son, to become king. Mm-hmm. But Stephen was the one for the easy life. By this point, I'm sure he'd lost his wife, he'd lost his eldest son, and he probably knew that the barons would not support him and the accession of William when Henry was already, even at 18, was already an established ruler in Normandy and a pretty good general, and the rightful heir to the throne. So Stephen effectively disinherited William. And all the books say, well, William, at least, he had all this money and land, so he wasn't too fussed. Well, he did try to ambush Henry, but it didn't work. But he wasn't too fussed. And it looks like after Henry did become king in 1154, it looks like he actually probably tried to make sure that William and Isabel were never in the same room together, or at least never in the same bed together for the next 5 years, because they didn't have any children, and William always seems to have been in the company of Henry rather than his wife. So that when William died, he went on a campaign to Toulouse with Henry II, and Henry lost a lot of troops during that campaign due to sickness, and William fell ill and left the campaign to recuperate, but then dropped dead on his way home to Isabel. And so he was the last surviving son and child of King Stephen and Matilda of Boulogne. So he was the last Count of Boulogne. The only other remaining child was Mary in her convent, who was now Countess of Boulogne, with all the lands that pertain to in England and on the borders of Normandy. And the County of Boulogne is like the northern border of Normandy. You know, it's, if you want to make sure Normandy is secure from any people in Flanders or the Holy Roman Empire, you want the County of Boulogne. Only thing is, the woman who now rules it is a nun.
Right. Like, how does that work exactly?
Well, the thing is, and it seems to be that it was Henry II's idea, or at least he was complicit in it. She was now a target for every chancer in Europe, you know, because she was still single, because she's in a monastery, in a convent. So she hasn't got a husband, but she has got a massive county of Boulogne that is one of the richest counties in Europe, because it's a seafaring nation. You know, a lot of trade goes through Boulogne. So Matthew of Alsace, who is the younger son of the Count of Flanders, decides to chance his arm, basically kidnaps Mary and marries her, probably rapes her beforehand and then marries her in order to get control of the County of Boulogne. Matthew of Alsace was, at the time, a loyal supporter of Henry II. So the belief is that Henry was at least complicit if he was not actually helping to organise the abduction. And it was also that the County of Boulogne was in Henry's control.
Gosh, it's always one of the continuing themes of being a woman in the Middle Ages is how dangerous it was.
Yes.
You hear stories like that all the time of attempted abductions to marry them, or actual ones, and the terrible things that were done to these women just because they held power.
Men forcing themselves upon these women to make sure that the women can't marry anywhere else. You know, you've got to marry your rapist, because otherwise it's the woman's honor that is at stake, not the man's. It's just, it's
a horrible double standard. It makes your
blood boil, doesn't it?
Yes.
Even people like Mary, Queen of Scots, couldn't get away from that role. It's like if you're a powerful queen and you still can't stand up for your own rights and still have this shame forced upon you, it's just disgusting.
So she's kidnapped, she's raped, she's now stuck in this marriage. What happens next?
Well, it's 1159 when she's kidnapped and forced to marry, and for the next 11 years she is the wife of Matthew of Alsace. They have 2 children, Ida and Matilda. And she does what she has to do to be a wife, you know, she's not. But at the same time, the Pope is writing to Matthew, telling him off for kidnapping a nun and excommunicating him. He's also writing to Mary and telling her she's a naughty girl and she needs to return to the convent. Because, of course, she was responsible for her own abduction. It's like, seriously. There's no sign that Mary was anything other than content in the convent. There's no sign that she colluded with Matthew for this to happen. But she's a woman, so she gets the blame for it. Of course, it's not just Matthew's fault for kidnapping her. It's her fault for allowing him to kidnap her. What on earth she could have done to stop it, I don't know. So So for 11 years, she's raising her daughters, being told by the papacy that she's been a naughty girl. Her husband's excommunicate. And then in 1170, either something happens. Matthew's dad is dying, and it's thought that one of his dying wishes was to Matthew to allow Mary to return to the convent, which would lift Matthew's excommunication. So in 1170, Mary does return to the convent, not the same one she'd left, but she does rejoin the convent, leaves her daughters in her husband's custody, and Matthew's excommunication is lifted. Now, out of this, we also have the fact that Mary squarely, as far as I can see, blames Henry II for her abduction. And the situation, she writes to the King of France, Louis the King of France, actually telling him that Henry II's been having secret communications with Frederick Barbarossa, the Holy Roman Emperor. And she's actually, squealing on Henry II, all the information she's gleaned, and telling Louis about it, because Louis is Henry's overlord for Normandy. So she obviously doesn't like Henry, and she's trying to get her own back for Henry's involvement in her abduction. And it's quite interesting when I was reading it, and they're thinking, well, maybe it's because Henry was her father's enemy during the war, during the anarchy. But I think it's more than likely because Henry knew at least about Matthew's plan to abduct her and didn't stop it. And he didn't force Matthew to allow her to return to the convent in 1159. It suited Henry for Matthew to be married to Mary, because at least then she wasn't going to be kidnapped by anybody else who might be an enemy of Henry and turn Boulogne against Henry.
Wow. Family drama, huh?
These were all related. These people were all related. You know how they called the Wars of the Roses the Cousins' War?
Yeah.
The anarchy was the very definition of the Cousins' War.
Yeah.
Stephen was a cousin of Empress Matilda, and Matilda of Boulogne was a cousin of Empress Matilda. They were first cousins, so the Empress was first cousins with each of them. So it was definitely a cousins' war. You didn't have to look on a family tree to work out how you were related, like you do with the Wars of the Roses.
Yeah.
It's just,
This one was much closer.
This one was much closer. They all knew each other's grandparents. Empress Matilda shared grandparents with Stephen and Matilda of Boulogne.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that gives it a whole different feeling, doesn't it? When you're that
when you look at that, so that means Henry II allowed the abduction, rape, and forced marriage of his second cousin. Yeah. Someone he should have actually looked out for.
Yeah, he should have. But she was just a woman, so...
Exactly.
Oh, this is the part of history that always makes me so mad about. Just women had zero agency. They had to go with the flow, and those who didn't go with the flow were deemed all kinds of bad things in return.
Exactly.
That's true.
Was that saying only badly behaved women, well-behaved women don't make history?
That's right.
Like, no, that's not the case at all. It's women who are deemed to be badly behaved are the only ones who actually got the attention of the chroniclers.
Yeah.
Well-behaved women could just as easily make history, but it's just everybody judges them because they stood up for themselves that they're badly behaved.
Yeah.
It's totally not true.
No, it's not.
Some of them were badly behaved, but not all of them.
So what did the end of her life look like? Did she live long? Was she happy? Do we know any of that?
She lived for another 12 years, I think it was. Yeah, she actually went back to a different monastery. She stayed in France and went to St. Austrebert in Montreuil. And she died there in July 1182, aged about 46. And she's buried in that convent. So, and you can just imagine, after everything, that was just a peaceful 12 years of just being able to just be peacefully by herself.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just unfortunate that in so many of these cases, these women are separated from their children.
Yes,
You know,
very much so.
that's the part that pulls at my heartstrings. You know, they have to leave the children with the husband because God forbid they go with the mother. You know, the mother can't have control over the future of her daughters.
No, and especially the eldest one, Ida, because she had once, although Matthew remained acting as Count of Boulogne until his death, it was actually his daughter Ida who would have been entitled to the county as soon as Mary went back into the convent. So he couldn't let anyone have custody of his daughter because then he wouldn't have control of the county.
Yeah. This is the thing that I find it so interesting because we always look at the major characters in history, right? Stephen and Matilda, and we look at their story and everything surrounding their story. But this is just such a good reminder that there were other people who were involved in this.
Yes, definitely. And yes, there's the main story, but there's all these little side plots and side theatres that are just as interesting, and they all play off each other. And I was thinking today actually about something else and thinking we need to start looking, to the side and where these families end up. I mean, Mary's younger daughter, Matilda, she did inherit Boulogne after her older sister Ida died, because Ida died without children. But Matilda was also married to Alfonso III of Portugal.
Oh.
So she was Countess of Boulogne and Queen of Portugal. But I think they eventually divorced. So then she could go back to just being Countess of Boulogne, which, I can't help but think is much more suitable.
I love
self-determination. I think self-determination throughout medieval times should have been the aim of every woman, and not many of them were lucky enough to actually achieve it.
Yeah, or that we were lucky enough to hear about it if they did. That's the key, isn't it? I just love talking about these women in history, and I can't thank you enough. I told Matt Lewis that nobody cared whether or not he showed up for these episodes, and he just kept showing up. So I'm glad he finally listened today, and that I could make room for you. I have to tease him because he's not here. So,
well, next time I'll come with my head shaved and go, "I'm Matt Lewis." Yeah, no, I won't.
I don't think it's gonna work, but I mean, if you want to, you sure can try. Sharon, your book "Princesses of the Early Middle Ages" is out now, right?
Yeah, it's out now in the UK. It's out in June. They've just put it back a couple of weeks in the US. So actually, it will be out as this program goes out, I think. So,
yes, well, that's perfect. So I will include links to the book in the show notes. I'll include links to the previous episodes that I had mentioned that we had discussed. Is there anything else that you have coming up in the month of June that you want to let people know about?
No, I've only got one talk coming up in June, and that's in Old Bolingbroke, in deepest, darkest Lincolnshire, about John of Gaunt and Catherine Swynford.
Ooh, exciting. Oh, there's another episode we did recently, didn't we, Catherine Swynford? We're just covering all the women in the Middle Ages now, aren't we?
Oh, definitely. Yes. We need to.
Yes, we do. Sharon Bennett Connolly, thank you so much for joining me again today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And that concludes another episode of the Tudors Dynasty and Beyond podcast. This podcast would not be possible without the wonderful support of my generous Patreon patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, you get commercial-free episodes, early access, and exclusive content. Head over to Patreon, that's patreon.com/Tudors Dynasty for more information. Until next time,